Honestly, in Nigeria, we have a lot of people who are mad. You understand? Me Kukuma don't they talk and say all of us we get bed for psychiatric hospital, and anybody who will occupy your own, free to go there. May you occupy your own. When you don't tire, you will come out. So people are calling for the arrest of Datti. Hey, Yusuf Datti Baba Ahmed, because he called Tinubu a drug dealer. Are you okay? Oh, so you don't have a problem with Tinubu's drug dealing issues, right? You don't have a problem with his forfeiture. You don't have a problem with the FBI file that came out. You don't have a problem with all the issues that are around him and his drug issues and all of that. But you have a problem with somebody calling him a drug dealer. And they call, oh, he should use his power as president. What nonsense power? Which power does he have? He's an illegitimate person who got into office by rigging his way there. We don't have a government in Nigeria. I totally agree with people that say we don't have a government in Nigeria. What we have is a criminal enterprise that have hijacked the nation and are doing all sorts of nonsense that they want to do. And some people feel that, oh, they are now the masters that we call for this thing, arrest any small thing, oh, arrest this person, arrest. The person that should be arrested, right, is that Tinubu that is in office. That's the person that needs to be arrested. That's the person that needs to be locked up for all the shenanigans that he has done and still doing right now. It's crazy. What's wrong with you people? Any small thing you come at, oh, the president, oh, you people think you are slaves to people in government or what? Well, they say mental abduction is a choice, eh? So feel free, those of you that are saying that, oh, Datti should be arrested, this one should be arrested, oh, Peter Obi should be arrested, this is this, that. Look, let me tell you something, eh? Tinubu does not own Nigeria and will never own Nigeria. That nonsense that he did in Lagos State, eh? Where people left him there, that he was feeling like one local champion. He can't try it at the federal level. He cannot. Especially with this illegitimacy hanging around him. He didn't win the 2023 election. He rigged his way into office. There's no difference between what he did and what was done in Nigeria. They are all cool. So for those of you who have sort of like sold your senses, like people behaving like oxygen wasting vessels, you're human beings, you're citizens, you're the bosses, because the office of the citizen is higher than the office of the president, albeit an illegitimate one at that.
The vice presidential candidate of the Labour Party in the 2023 presidential election, Yusuf Datti Baba Ahmed, has said President Bola Tinubu has not delivered on any of his campaign promises. He lamented that Tinubu's administration has not taken any bold steps except to shut down IRF and to use misapplied force on the weak Nigerian institutions that we have. He made this statement during a particular Monitor television program. He insisted that when Nigerians finally wake up and decide to take over the country, anything will become possible. The Labour Party chieftain argued that Tinubu has played God for such a long time, and it is time for mortals like Peter Obi to put him in his place. He went ahead to say that this man has delivered nothing. He is poised to deliver nothing. They have not moved an inch Nigeria from consumption and waste to production, and they will not do it. They will not stop the killings and start the healing. They will not stop the stealing and start the keeping, and they will not stop the slide of Nigeria. They cannot start the climb. For someone that has been playing God for such a long time, like Alhaji Tinubu, it is time for a mortal like maybe Obi or someone else to put him in his right place. For someone who has wielded so much power in the country like Nigeria, where is that power in the last 6 months to apply? In the welfare, in the security, they cannot do it. They are in power for themselves, for their ego, for their wealth, for their comfort, for their own considerations, and not for Nigeria. According to Datti Baba Ahmed, he says he will continue to call President Bola Ahmed Tinubu a drug dealer, whether he likes it or not. That is how he identifies him. What's your take on his response? Critics have alleged that Datti Ahmed was really apolitical in his reaction to Hash, for someone who is possibly a political stalwart, someone who's actively involved in politics, and he should have considered the consequences of his statements when he was making such an outrageous allegations against the president. What's your take on that?
My take on that is that why do Nigerians criticize truthfulness as being harsh speech? When all the things that Mr. Datti Baba Ahmed has said, which one is false. They are all blank truths. The issue of the promises by Mr. Tinubu, was there any promise by Tinubu when he was campaigning that any Nigerian can remember? No. He just said, it is my turn, Emiloko. That was simply what he said. And he was insistent that was his criteria for becoming president, that it was his turn. And what has he done ever since he has become president? Right from the swearing-in spot, he decreed that there will be no more subsidy. And ever since, the economy has been nosediving. He has all his plans, all his policies, the presidential yacht he intends to buy, the 1.5 billion naira being spent on the first lady's vehicles, all the wastages, the renovation of a presidential villa in Lagos. He's only thinking of himself. So what is wrong with what Datti Ahmed has said? Even with regards to the issue of drug trafficking and money laundering, the fact is that Mr. Tinubu did forfeit funds for money laundering and drug trafficking issues, $460,000. So that is a fact. He's involved in drug trafficking and money laundering. With regards to issue of forgery or forging certificates, Mr. Tinubu submitted a forged document to INEC. So if somebody calls him a forger, is he wrong? What is harsh about that? And what he said about the day Nigerians had to wake up, they will rescue Nigeria from the clutches of this man. That is a fact. Because I do not see how with this process, this suffering, this hardship can continue for the next 4 years. Not too long ago, we became aware of the statement by the Tanzanian president that people should try to cut their coats according to their clothes. That people in public office should not live large at the expense of the people. But we are seeing the exact opposite, which is the same in Tinubu, which is what Mr. Datti Baba Ahmed is alluding to. And you say he's being harsh? No, I don't think being truthful. Truth is truth. If the truth is bad, then do the right thing so that nobody will say. So I very much agree with what Mr. Datti Baba Ahmed has said.
All right, let's look at this from this perspective, because a couple of persons may allege that maybe because you do not support this administration, you may not actually see any silver lining. So what if the FBI had actually not redacted the name of the president in the files that were released recently concerning the drug shenanigans and movement by some persons that were mentioned? I think Muiz, Banner, and a couple of other persons that were mentioned in that particular document. What if the president had not redacted, what if the FBI rather had not redacted the president's name? His name had been mentioned and all the activities he was involved in ever since he earlier was in the United States of America, and all his activities were also listed out there. Would it have made any difference since the Supreme Court had already authenticated him as the winner of the February 25 elections? What difference would it have made?
Well, the fact is this, whether they deducted it or not, as they have deducted it already, it makes no difference. It just tells the world that the FBI has over 2,000 files on the person who is acting as the president of Nigeria. It is for, can you imagine anybody who the DSS or the Nigerian secret police or Nigerian police has 2,000 files on, and you're not a police officer? Are you a career criminal? That is the question that should be asked. So if they can do all the deductions they want, the fact that the person occupying the seat of President of the Federal Republic has that number of files before a criminal files on criminal issues before an intelligence outfit of a foreign government should be a cause of worry. Now, this is just the FBI. Have we asked ourselves what the other countries, France, Germany, and Britain, and other ones, what do they have on Mr. Tinubu? That is what should worry Nigerians. Because if all of them have files on Mr. Tinubu, it is very clear that they will manipulate him. They will use those as blackmail to ensure he does what he wants him to do. So, I mean, the issue of deduction is even whether deducted or not, and would it have affected the Supreme Court? I don't think so. Because this Supreme Court had a game plan. Even if you told them Mr. Tinubu was Lucifer, I'm sure they would have still approved his candidature.
All right, Barrister Eze, you do know that there was a press conference yesterday organized by the Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi. In that press conference, Peter Obi actually expressed quite a lot, and the top part or the topmost of that particular press conference was his expression towards the confirmation by the Supreme Court on President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He says he rejected that particular confirmation by the Supreme Court, and he made a couple of allegations. But apparently, a senior advocate of Nigeria, whose name is Mr. Wahab Shitu, he has asked the question that in all the allegations levied by Peter Obi, which one of them has been proved? He made a statement while he was pointing out that of all the claims Peter Obi, including malpractice, certificate forgery, and perjury, none of them was Peter Obi able to prove in court. What's your take on that particular reaction?
You see, we should begin to understand that some of these sons, when they speak, they don't speak law. They just speak politics. Now, this is a very clear instance of somebody speaking politics. When you have an institution, a university, depose on oath, sequel to a court order, and in that oath, they state clearly that the certificate Mr. Tinubu submitted to INEC is unknown to us. That means clearly a forgery has been established. You go further down, one other document that was revealed was that Mr. Tinubu claimed to have left Government College Lagos 4 years before that school was established. So the issue of his identity becomes even in doubt. So the reality, I mean, when someone like Wahab Shitu begins to talk that kind of crap, you know he's not talking law, he's talking politics. And then you put it in the realm of politics. You can, when you're in politics, you can blab anything you want to blab. But the realities are the realities.
All right. Thank you, Barrister Ezra Eluche. So let's look at this particular development. The NLC is about to embark on a 14-day warning strike. Or rather, no, not 14 days. They actually said they're going to commence strike on November 14. And this is due to the kind of treatment that was meted out on the NLC president. Do you think Nigerians should back this cause?
Well, I do not think Nigerians should begin to even take the NLC with a pinch of salt. You give 14th of November. All the previous strike notifications they are giving, what happens? A day or two before that court date, that strike date, the federal government will go and obtain an injunction from the National Industrial Court, stopping the strike. So if you keep on repeating the same thing that has not yielded any result, and you keep on doing it, well, what results can you expect to get? So nothing will happen on that day. I can assure you that a court order will be obtained either on the 12th or 13th, and that strike will not take place. So when the NLC gets serious, Nigerians will know. You don't need to give all that kind of long notice if you really want to go on strike. And secondly, you are going on strike because of the brutalization of one person, of your president. What of Nigerians who have been brutalized, killed, and suffered a different kind of extrajudicial atrocities under the hands of government agencies? That was not enough to go on strike. NLC should please get serious. In as much as we do not agree with of Mr. Ajero, the president, they should realize that the issue should be a national issue for people to go on strike, and strikes by giving all that long notice is meaningless because it will be stopped a day or two before the strike.
Now, let's go back to Yusuf Datti Baba Ahmed, the vice presidential candidate of the Labour Party, where he talked about the Supreme Court, talked about Tinubu, and talked about Shetima. He insisted that the Senate President Godswill Akpabio should conduct a new presidential election following the resignations of Tinubu and Shetima. According to him, if the two politicians resign, Akpabio will be in a position to oversee the election process where a new president and a vice would be elected. This was actually during a monitored program recently. Datti Ahmed, just like his principal, was able to express quite a lot. A couple of persons will say Datti Ahmed is so blunt and literally does not have diplomacy in how he expresses himself. He stated that can Tinubu and Shetima just resign and let the Senate President conduct another election? They were fraudulently sworn in, and we will not work with an illegitimate government. If it is not constitutional, we are not touching it. What's your take on that expression?
Well, my take is that some of us have for long opined that the Nigerian constitution itself has been rubbished by a lot of things, one of which is the total disregard of the constitutional provisions. Even if you remove the president and his vice, is the Senate president any better? And who will now conduct the elections? Is it not the same Mahmoud Yakubu that messed up the presidential elections? So the rot has permeated the system. And then we just have to imagine and conceptualize a means to correct Nigeria. The entire polity has to be restructured and renegotiated, not just cosmetic removals of individuals. At the end of the day, who will still adjudicate over the issue? Is it not the same Supreme Court that condoned forgeries and identity theft? So, I mean, the whole system is in a huge mess. So the people have, and the best way has been advocated quite a long time ago, and that is to restructure and renegotiate Nigeria, keep aside the constitutional provision because they have been messed up already. And then when we are now ready for that kind of change, then we will meet at the round table. The constituent nationalities of Nigeria will now decide what do we want of this territory called Nigeria.
All right, thank you so much, Barrister Ezeluche, for your in-depth analysis on this issues raised on the World News at 6. I sincerely do appreciate your input.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome.